guys, I'm Michelle Maddow and welcome to my video of my Twilight Collection. In celebration today, I'm wearing my Team Jacob t-shirt that I got from Nordstrom back when the Twilight movie first came out. To clarify, I am Team Jacob for myself because if I had to choose between Jacob and Edward, I would choose Jacob just because I think that he is more fun, that he's more adventurous, and that he is very respectful of Bella's opinions a little bit more. But when it comes down to it, in the books, I do think that Bella and Edward belong together and was rooting for them to be together in the end. So I am Team Edward for Bella and Team Jacob for myself. I have my Twilight bracelets on today. This first one is a replica of the one that Jacob got for her, this charm that is the wolf, and then Edward got the heart diamond. In the books, it's a real diamond. This is not a real diamond, this is fake. And this other bracelet is from Nordstrom, and it is their Twilight movie collection bracelets that I got right before the movie came out. So moving on to my book collection of Twilight, I have, as you can guess, the whole collection, but in addition, I also have Twilight in many different languages. And this all started when I went on a vacation to Europe. It was a Baltic cruise, and I purchased Twilight in 2 different languages as souvenirs from those places. And my friends and my family found out about this, and they know how much I love Twilight, so they decided to buy me copies of Twilight in different languages whenever they went on vacations, and thus I have started a collection that you're about to see. Here are my 4 Twilight books. My original copy of Twilight is signed by Stephenie Meyer. I met her at Book Expo America in 2006. New Moon hardcover by Stephenie Meyer. Now, I have 3 ARCs, Advanced Reader's copies, of New Moon, and the reason for this is because I first found out about Book Expo America back in 2006, and I heard that copies of New Moon were going to be there, and so I was 19 at the time. It was my first Book Expo America. I was so excited, and I saw this huge pack, this big pile, like stacked up to here, like taller than me, maybe, not really, of copies of New Moon, and I grabbed 3 of them because I was a little bit of a book hoarder, and I do not recommend that anyone does that at Book Expo America. And this one, well, this one's signed to my mom. This one is not signed. This one is signed by Stephenie to me, and if you see that, it says, "To Michelle, I am so glad I got to meet you." And trust me, I was really happy I got to meet her. I pretty much freaked out. I was afraid to approach her, and finally I got the courage, and I said hi, and I'm so happy I did. I have a picture of myself with her. Here's a picture I took with Stephenie. Me at 19. Have I changed much? I don't know. Maybe I'm a vampire like the ones in Twilight. My hardcover of Eclipse. If you go to page 26 in the hardcover edition of Eclipse, you'll see the name Michelle right there. She could not use my last name, but the name Michelle is there because I asked Stephenie to use my name in the book. So I am one of the humans who was killed by vampires in their rampage in Seattle. Another copy of Eclipse, and this one apparently signed. I must have gotten it signed at an event and I don't remember it. And lastly, my copy of Breaking Dawn, the short second life of Bree Tanner, the Twilight graphic novel. And as a joke, I did get Nightlight by the Harvard Lampoon, which is a parody of Twilight. I have the movie edition of The Host. My movie edition of The Host is signed by Stephenie Meyer, who I met at a signing last year in Miami, and she did remember me from when I met her at the signing in 2006 when I got my copy of Twilight signed. I also have the hardcover first edition of The Host. Let's move on to my foreign edition copies of Twilight. This is where things get crazy and a little bit obsessive. Just as another explanation for my obsession with Twilight, I read it back in 2005. I was on a beach, just chilling out, reading Twilight, had no expectations of this book, and I fell in love with it, and it really is what reintroduced me back into young adult fiction and ultimately got me back into writing. So Stephenie Meyer has been a huge impact on my life. This is the Swedish edition of New Moon. Eclipse in Hebrew. My brother got this for me on a trip to Israel. This is a copy of Breaking Dawn in Czech. This is Breaking Dawn in Thai, which was purchased for me by my brother when he went on a school trip to China and Thailand. And Breaking Dawn, you can tell it's a lot shorter, and this is because in Thailand, they did split it into Breaking Dawn Part 1 and Breaking Dawn Part 2. This is a copy of what I think is New Moon in Russian. Maybe it's Twilight, but this is definitely in Russian. Here is Twilight in Chinese. Twilight in Hebrew, which I got on my own trip to Israel back in summer of 2012. I was on a group trip and they dropped us all off at the mall, and everyone else, of course, went clothes shopping or shopping for typical souvenirs. And then there's me, who's like, I'm gonna find the bookstore and I'm gonna get a copy of Twilight in a language I don't know how to read. Here is Twilight in Arabic, and this was purchased by a friend of mine when she went on a trip to Egypt to visit her family who lives there. I am so jealous that she's been to Egypt. Egypt is one of the destinations that I would love to see myself. Twilight in Spanish. I got this on a trip to Spain. This is a copy of Twilight in Dutch. This was purchased for me by my brother when he did a study abroad program when he was in Spain, and he did some side trips, and one of them was to Holland. He wrote me a really long, sweet letter inside this book. Michelle, I got this Dutch Twilight to join your collection. I'm not exactly sure why you have the collection, but I've always assumed that you use it as an inspiration for your own writing career. I know that you dream of a day in which you go into any bookstore in the world and buy a version of your own book in the native language. So this book is my way of saying good luck. I am confident that next time that I am in Holland, your book will be on the shelves. Keep up the great work, Stephen. Twilight in French, which I did get in France. And last but not least, this is my copy of Twilight in Italian. Another just hardback of Twilight, because I have a lot of them. So there you have it, my rather large collection of my copies of Twilight in many different languages, plus my Twilight bling and my Twilight t-shirt. So yeah, I really love Twilight. So much, in fact, that I went to Forks. I was actually going to Oregon for a writer's conference, and I decided why not side trip to Forks while I was in the Pacific Northwest. And I do have a video of my trip to Forks where I did a tour called Dazzled by Twilight, in which I visited many sites that are mentioned in the Twilight book. I'm going to link on the down bar below where you can see my video blog of my trip to Forks, Washington. And that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed seeing my collection of all of my Twilight books. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye!